Signal callers' mouths these days sound a lot like random gibberish. Earlier this season, Rams quarterback Jared Goff was heard clearly yelling, "Halle Berry." The Oscar-winning actress heard about it and responded on social media. So what do all these crazy audibles mean? Matthew Hasselbeck has the answer.
Ric Flair, Scooby Right Cram, NASCAR, Tiffany, Ohio.
The guys on the inside that know what they mean a very important thing. You on the outside, it's like, what in the world are they saying?
At times we'll come up with just funny stuff in the event that somebody hears it and then maybe they think that it's real.
When it comes to audibles, any word is fair game.
Washington 93Y.
From East Coast rappers
Biggie.
to West Coast.
Tupac.
To food and drinks.
Yogurt, candy, ice cream, Arthur. Juice.
We've got a bunch of different things. You name it, it's a play in our playbook.
They say one thing, and then the next week it means something completely different. It's a chess game.
It's that real round. It's that real round. Watch it, film, bro. That's cool. Watch this. What is it?
You just, saying stuff to trying to get the defense thinking and off their toes.
The play calls always evolve from a root word. So you call the first play Buffalo because you picked it up from the Buffalo Bills, and then you want to change one person's route, so then you change it to New York, and then the next variation's Long Island. Eventually you introduce it to a young player, and he's learning a play called Shinnecock, and he has no idea why.
Not all audibles involve an intricate evolution. Famous men make their way into the mix.
Mini-Me, Obama, Fonzie, Seinfeld, Chuck Norris.
Places on the map are always a popular go-to for quarterback audibles. I feel like I'm just listing Jeopardy categories.
Kansas, Seattle Tiger, Arizona, Nebraska 642 Prancer, Omaha, Quaker, Omaha.
While most quarterbacks are learning these audibles from their coaches, Peyton Manning was inventing his own audible language.
I grew up wanting to emulate Peyton Manning and just be a piece of what he was at the line of scrimmage.
I thought he handled the Omaha, which most of us know what that means, very well.
It's a run play, but it could be a pass play or a play action pass, depending on a couple things: the wind, which way we're going, the quarter, and the jerseys that we're wearing. So it varies, really play to play.
When all the cities and states are taken, we move on to pop culture.
Dilly.
I was like, if we do this in the game, guys, it'll be hilarious.
Dilly, set on!
And I should know that everything we say you can hear, but I thought it came across pretty funny.
Dilly. Block part action!
More recently, women's names have been picked up by the microphones.
Linda! Lucy! Oprah alert! Hey, Halle Berry! Hey, I'm single with 50!
Sean came up with that word. Like, he does most of the words during the week. I just go, okay, I hope this one makes it in the game, and I hope it makes it on the TV copy, because that'd be pretty funny if she, happened to hear it.
All right, bring him down in short motion and get the Halle Berry. Halle Berry, come out with some depth out of this.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, it's pretty quiet right now. She might hear this.
Hey, Halle Berry! Hey, I'm single with 50!
And sure enough, afterwards, she heard it and tweeted at me and tweeted her back. It's my favorite play. And
Okay, so who's next?
maybe Jennifer Aniston. Who knows?
I just realized we haven't heard any defensive players' thoughts on audibles.
I know they're all spewing a bunch of bullshit up there anyway, so it doesn't matter.
That's good stuff right there. That is good stuff.
I love it. Well done, JJ.
JJ, that's a great way to end
Well done, JJ. Hey, Jeff Saturday, you know that guy we heard from there?
Yes.
Yeah. So you got any audible stories from Peyton?
Yeah, listen, my favorite, to JJ's point, is when we knew someone was catching on to our audible. So when you play a team twice a year, we were playing Tennessee Titans twice a year. So we're getting down the red zone and we're calling audibles. And Peyton uses, and so ours were similar. So if it was a female name, we were going to go to the right. It's going to be outside play to the right. And so he's making the call, and he can tell that the linebackers are listening. So he's like, guys, disregard the audible. I'm going to make a check. It's going to look like this. But here, and I mean, when he calls it, it looked like the Red Sea parting. Everybody opened up, and he could have handed it to Dallas Clark. It was like a little trap pass. He just tossed it in there because everybody had vacated because they were all listening for audibles, trying to keep up. But the funnest part of the entire thing is, or the most fun is, the games that you play with guys like Ray Lewis, when they're all listening, they all think they have it. Greg Biekert from the Raiders a long time ago, he used to love to try to hear your audibles and catch on, and they would at times, and at other times they wouldn't know. But it's the game within the game. I love that. It's a great
and a great quote by JJ. I won't repeat it, but he's not wrong.
I love it. It's so true. That's what made it so good.
All right, listen. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk about another one, shall we? The Green Bay Packers are bringing back Luke Getsy as their new quarterback coach. He will be tasked with newly hired head coach Matt LaFleur to help get quarterback Aaron Rodgers back to his MVP form. Getsy coached the Packers receivers before becoming Mississippi State's offensive coordinator last season. And we also know this. LaFleur will now get to work with Aaron Rodgers, who struggled last year in a couple key areas. He posted career worst completion percentages when under pressure and in the red zone, while he had his second worst mark in the fourth quarter and overtime of one-possession games. Coach, look, let's just start here. How does Coach LaFleur help Aaron Rodgers?
Well, number one, I think, some of criticism on Matt LaFleur coming from the Tennessee Titans. Let me just make this point. Matt LaFleur is now the head coach. I'm sure he's going to bring a little bit more of the Rams' style of offense to the Green Bay Packers. And what better guy to work with than Aaron Rodgers? And let me say this about Aaron Rodgers. Maybe the most talented quarterback in the National Football League. But, hey, all these guys want a good system. All right, they want the ability to run the ball. All right, they want answers. And I think Matt LaFleur will bring that. They also want to be, great players want to be coached. And I'm talking about fundamentally. Peyton Manning used to tell me all the time, I just want to be coached. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers is any different. I think Matt LaFleur will do an outstanding job in both system and fundamental.
It's interesting you say that, because I think if you cast the net wide, the prevailing theory is that Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be coached, and that he wants to do things his own way, that he wants to be sort of the offensive coordinator on the field. In your estimation, is that not the case?
I don't think so. I think, look, coaching is about getting guys to buy in. And I think if you have let the players have some input, let the players be able to talk about and have whys. Why are we doing this, Coach? Why are we doing that? And I think as a coach, when you do a good job of explaining those types of things, there's more buy-in. And I think Aaron Rodgers, at the end of the day, he wants to have success. And I think coaching can bring that.
LaFleur is obviously a younger guy, and we've seen a number of young coaches hired across the league specifically to work with younger quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, obviously an established veteran. Do you think the young coach pairing good or not for Aaron Rodgers? And I mean across the board, all the coaches.
I think it's really good. And I'll tell you why. I think that when you're seeing the evolution of the game, especially when we talked about, and you said, bringing the Ram-style offense where you're spreading the ball out, the ball's coming out really quickly. It's understanding how to solve your problems. You saw it was his worst in his career under pressure. You saw that with RPOs, right? You saw that, and understanding that plays in that system stay on schedule much more than what he was accustomed to under Mike McCarthy. And we would see the play after 2 seconds. And, hey, it's like a scramble drill. All of a sudden, he has to make plays. So many more plays will come on time. And contrary to belief, he will be better in that system. As good as he is outside the pocket, making things up, quarterbacks thrive, to Coach's points, about understanding when the ball needs to come out. Timing needs to happen here. If you look at Frank Reich and Andrew Luck, it's a perfect example of the system helping the quarterback. No longer is he taking shots, because when the foot hits the ground, he knows where the ball is going to go. Aaron Rodgers will thrive under young guys because they're bringing a system that is equipped to show you that, hey, this receiver's uncovered pre-snap, we're going to him right now. I mean, think about how fast they play. Run up to the line, the ball snap quickly. It's all the tempo, it's pace, all things that Aaron Rodgers loves and can thrive in. I think the younger coaches that he's going to be surrounded with will help him long term.
So Jeff's talking about the system, and I want to talk about the talent. And the marriage of those two results in this. No excuses. That's the bottom line. When you have Aaron Rodgers, and you're going to put him in the class of perhaps the greatest quarterback in terms of talent ever, no excuses.
Right.
We see quarterbacks that find ways to do more with less than what Aaron Rodgers has in Green Bay right now. And oh, by the way, they have some excellent pieces. Maybe
Great
the best
point.
left tackle in football. One of the 5 best wide receivers in football in Devontae Adams. Guys that are either at the end of their time in Green Bay, like Randall Cobb, or Marquez Valdez-Scantling at the beginning of his time in Green Bay, that have shown enough. So the operation needs to be there, the system needs to be there, and the talent, even if it's imperfect right now, is good enough. I promise you that.
Yeah,
no
I
excuses.
agree.
Those are retired, effective immediately in Green Bay.
All right, effective immediately.
Like it.
All right, I like it. Feel preaching today. All right, listen, we do have an update of sorts on Washington quarterback Alex Smith. He has been scarcely seen in public since the very difficult injury that ended his season. He was spotted in a box watching the Wizards play the Pistons on Monday. He did have his leg heavily bandaged, a large apparatus attached to the outside of his leg, and you can see the crutches behind him, so clearly he continues to recover. The quarterback situation in the nation's capital went from bad to worse following his season-ending injury Week 11. Backup Colt McCoy suffered a broken fibula in just his second start, and that led the Redskins to promote and bench Mark Sanchez within a span of 2 games. They closed out the season with Josh Johnson, who made the first starts of his career since 2011. Publicly, there's been very little information about Alex Smith and his condition. So do we have any kind of sense of a timetable?
You know, as someone described it to me, Wendy, basically we're too far away from a timetable to have a timetable on when Alex Smith could return to football field if he returns to a football field. There is still some question in that most important part, if he is able to return to the football field. So I think that if you're the Redskins this offseason, you know what you're looking at as a top need? Quarterback. Alex Smith is obviously already in his 30s, so you're always kind of keeping an eye towards the future. But when you made this trade, you also extended him by 4 seasons. It kind of bought you a window. That window may have been adjusted. You may have to be looking at quarterbacks and be in the market, because as ugly as it was offensively for the last 6 games of this season, Washington scratched and clawed and played competitive football this year.
Well, it's interesting because you certainly hope he recovers, but at this point it sounds like there is an if there, you know, and Washington will have to move on. They have to play next season. Who's out there that might be a fit?
You know, the Redskins, obviously, at the point they're at in the draft, may not necessarily be equipped to take one of the top-ranked quarterbacks. But look at these off-season potential free agents or maybe trade candidates. Teddy Bridgewater, the only one of these guys that I think is viewed as a guaranteed unrestricted free agent who also will be evaluated as a surefire starter somewhere this offseason. We know that it's a matter of when, not if, the Eagles make a decision on Nick Foles. And Joe Flacco, the Ravens have already said, they've closed the book on Joe Flacco's tenure, thanked him for his contributions. You know, I think if I'm the Redskins, that list kind of is in order of how you might prioritize them. Bridgewater and Foles at the top, and then the rest of those guys are kind of contingency plans.
And I want to make sure that we're not insensitive. Clearly, first and foremost, we wish Alex Smith a recovery and continued help. Such a great guy, and we wish him the best there. And then, of course, we'll look at what comes next for both him and his team. Press coverage now from Joe Person of The Atlantic. Duke quarterback Daniel Jones, who is meeting with the media at the Senior Bowl, says he received a first-round grade from the NFL Advisory Board. Mel Kiper Jr. has Jones as his 3rd-ranked quarterback in his first mock draft of the season, mock draft 1.0.
Mock draft season, baby. Let's go.
That's right. Almost, Field Yates, almost. Late in his career, Drew Brees has to wonder if this was a wasted title chance, or will the Saints rally and rise to the challenge again for their Hall of Fame quarterback? Win a Super Bowl. Drew Brees has won. He'd like to win another. Just turned 40 on January 15th. Panic or patience on that window for this veteran quarterback to win one more?
Nah, I'm just kidding.
I was going to be a little surprised.
No, I'm going patient. Listen, this team is loaded. I mean, and we saw, obviously they had plenty of opportunities to win that football game against the Rams. I think they'll look back at that. Obviously, the penalty was devastating, but they had some opportunities in the red zone they did not take advantage of. Brees, in all honesty, didn't play his best either. He missed some throws, had some underthrows. The one to Thomas in the end zone that should have been a touchdown, and even the one that was broken, that was caught deep by Ginn, that ball could have been picked off. So there were some things and some issues, but they're still loaded and have plenty of talent to be able to be in this thing again next year. And his play as a whole and as a leader, there's nothing diminished from what Drew Brees is doing.
Yeah, and I agree completely. I think I answered a question on this show about a guy who played in the Super Bowl, whether he was washed up or not, and that's Tom Brady. And that was laughable, too. So when I saw you go hit that, I was about ready to stop.
Pump fake on Got him.
He had me thrown off. But, I think their defense is just going to keep getting better. Offensively, Sean Payton does as good a job as anybody, in football as far as offensive play calling. So, I'm totally patient on Drew Brees.
Yeah, I'm going to sort of bring it all full circle here. I am patient as well. You look about what they do that is sustainable going forward. They've got an offensive line that includes 5 guys that are either named to the Pro Bowl or to the second team or better all-pro team. So they got a great offensive line with cohesion. Drew Brees, we know he is going to likely be the second place finisher in the MVP. Here are the areas where the Saints can get a bit better this offseason. They have to find more help at wide receiver to take a little bit of the burden off of Mike Thomas, because it did seem to catch up to them.
Pittsburgh might be available.
He might be a little too expensive, but Mike Thomas could use a bit of help at wide receiver. And then defensively, I think it's about development. You've got a guy like Marcus Davenport that you traded up in the first round to get last year. Can he become an every down dominant player opposite of Cam Jordan, who's already a dominant defensive player? Because besides that, the Saints kind of check every box. They're well coached. They've got balance in offense and defense. I think that the magnitude of the season kind of caught up to them a bit on Sunday. They were not the same offense in the second half of the year. But Mark Ingram, probably their most notable free agent this offseason. There are some guys that need to be retained. But for the most part, the band is already together.
Yeah.
A lot of confidence going forward in what the Saints can be next year.
Yeah, one player I would say, Rankins, with the Achilles injury, Sheldon Rankins, that would be one area of concern is can you find a guy to replace what he did? Because that Achilles, you don't know how long. Some guys come back super quick. Some guys it takes well over a year. Being injured that late in the year is a scary proposition, especially for a 3 technique and a 1 that takes a lot of abuse, getting driven, double teams, all that kind of thing. That would be one player or one area I would say you would want to just because he had such a fantastic year before the injury.
I will say this. I agree with all of you. I think there's no need to panic. But what happens is you do see a quarterback who, at 40, still playing exceptionally well, but won't play forever. And you get that close. It's just a sort of an obvious question.
Twice 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row because you know how difficult, although they made it look easy, you know how difficult it is to get to that point.
Great point.
So it's hard not to wonder. The NFL will look into, if you will, a report from a local Kansas City television station that a laser was flashed at Patriots quarterback Tom Brady during the fourth quarter of the AFC Championship. This is according to a league spokesman. In this video, we can see a light flash across Brady's face before taking several snaps. You can't do that. So they're going to look into